can shapeshift. And I believe that the reason why they do this is to take sexual energy. And sometimes they could take sperm and then use that sperm to impregnate a woman elsewhere. And then they just shapeshift depending on who they want to mess with. So they're a kind of interdimensional being.
Is there help for the demonic sex attacks of the incubus and succubus, or like what would you recommend people do that are having that problem and they've had it throughout their lives, and it's not an every week or every month thing, but it's been sporadic throughout their whole life?
Yeah, that would mean, I think, a window's open somehow for an interdimensional being to be either linked into their field, and it could happen from an original trauma.
Right.
And so what we would do, I mean, let's say if there's a therapeutic way, this is something that's done in holographic kinetics, which is a method that Steve Richards has created and developed based on the Aboriginal Dreamtime healing understanding of how the universe works and how these healers do their work and understand things. Basically, if these things are happening a lot, you got a hole in your field because it's hacked into your field interdimensionally. Okay, so it usually happens through a trauma, or it could be carried on through a bloodline thing, like your family. It could be in a haunted house, or a past life thing where something happened where that entity was with you in another life and you carried it through into your next life. So there's different reasons why they can hack in, but once they're in, you basically want to get them out because they're a pain in the, they're a pain, right?
Yeah, literally.
And then they, you can get them from relationships too. I mean, you can have nothing happen in your life, and then you get one of these like love bite, Dark Side of Cupid relationships where you date someone and you don't even have to have sex with them. Actually, you could just have astral interconnections with them, and where your energy fields mix, and then pretty soon you can be messed with by the entity that's their entity, so to speak. And so the different ways we would clear that, I mean, prayer is one way that people have. Calling on the name of Jesus has worked for many people, and praying has been effective for a lot of people. So I can't denounce that.
Right.
I believe that there is power in prayer and positive intentions and visualizations, and let's say stopping behaviors that can open up these interdimensional windows, like drug addictions or substance abuse or violent behaviors or perverted sex addictions can bring these entities in. So there's different ways they can come in that you can close those windows. Basically, having a purified emotional body and, clean thoughts, clean environment, clean food helps keep those windows shut. But what we do, let's say in holographic kinetics or some of my work is, let's say something came in and there's an interdimensional interference. We just call it alien interference, okay? And they know there's something messing with them or the relationship. So we take them through, let's say, a guided hypnotherapeutic process, or like a guided visualization where I take them to a safe place, and then we connect directly with their highest, I call it their highest spirit essence, which is the eternal now divine aspect. Some people call it higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with that part of yourself and the power and the willpower, and then you use that awareness under guided and a relaxed state to find where these entities may be attaching in their body or their energy fields, and literally clear it out through willpower and through the power of the frequency of that spirit essence. That's one way, and there's a method that I learned through Dr. Corrado Malanga of Italy, and he calls them liberation techniques. And there's 3 basic ones that he developed that are specific for alien abductees. And so I use those methods. But basically, therapeutically, you clear the trauma. You have to find the trauma at which point these entities entered its current life. And then that person could be guided by their spirit once we make that connection, go directly to and kind of relive it. But I don't want to say relive it in a way that creates more post-traumatic stress.
Right.
You basically are in the now of the experience, and you release those emotions associated with that traumatic event. And a lot of times that's when the entity enters, where, let's say, a belief or a judgment was made at that time during that shocking experience. A lot of times when we're really young, let's say between now and 7 years old, you may make beliefs about yourself or the world or whatever that are not true. Like, oh, I will never have love in my life. All men are bad, or, whatever it is, whatever the trauma did, like I will never play again because I'm too scared because somebody threw something on my sister's head and cracked her brain open, whatever the trauma was. Sometimes we make beliefs that are deeply embedded in the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So these deeply embedded beliefs, in addition with the energy of the trauma that's not released, right, that's trapped and repressed in there, then that creates this kernel of power to recreate a particular pattern in your lifetime. So that means you keep recreating in your life the belief system that you believed at that trauma, as well as maintaining that entity that keeps that going. So you have to basically clear it out. You literally just clear it and release that. And so there's a way you can release traumas and interdimensional entities basically at the same time. Or you could reframe the event therapeutically, which is what a lot of hypnotherapists do with people who've gone through traumas. And they basically want to reframe their life to be something better than what it was, to have a positive sense of self and experience. And you can do that. And so, yeah, that's one of the methods of therapy. That would be like working individually with someone. But there's ways you can do support, like with others, like sharing with others.
I was going to ask about that too. Yeah. Like group support groups and stuff like that.
That's helpful. I think that's very helpful. And that's one thing that I think the internet has helped us do, is become aware that there's many people across the globe who have had similar experiences, and we're finally meeting each other and being able to talk and connect. Even if it's just online, at least we're learning a lot that way. We're learning much more probably than we've ever learned before. Mm-hmm. But, there's also disinformation out there, and there's also different groups who believe this or groups that believe that. So in a real support group environment, one of the things that I discovered was that there's people who have different kinds of experiences. Like some people may have had, let's say, more of the traumatic, malevolent types with a lot of post-traumatic stress symptoms, right, or a lab experience, and some who have had maybe just one incident of missing time, and they don't seem to have a lot of trauma in their lives, and they think the beings are good, and they may just have beings appear in their dreams, and they don't seem to be negative. And so there's different kinds, and then there's different belief systems that are generated as a result of those experiences. So when you put people together in a support group, sometimes you get a lot of differences of opinion, which can turn into a lot of disruptive arguments if it's not facilitated correctly. So that's one of the things that I learned early on, is that if we wanted to do a support group, we're going to keep it based on supporting the person through what experience that they're sharing on an emotional and heart-based level. So instead of talking all about what we believe and how wonderful we think these beings are and how they're raising our consciousness, we basically stay on a feeling and a heart level from a completely supportive and reflective empathy perspective. Uh-huh. And I think that keeps us on a really human level, so that the people who basically think they're special and their egos are all activated about how special they are, about being, this emissary of this star system, it's like, get over it. It's like, we're here to be human with each other. We're here to support each other on a feeling and needs basis, so that we could support whatever process of self-discovery that takes place in a therapeutic environment. Wow. And that's how I like to do it, because I know that there's so many different belief groups out there with respect to this whole UFO ET thing. I mean, believe me, everything is out there. So I like to just keep it simple from a therapeutic perspective on feelings and needs and resolution of trauma, and getting the person functional and learning how to connect with others to have mutual support, so that we don't have to be isolated, because the isolation exacerbates the post-traumatic stress and the problems, the negative aspects of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there must be an increase in trauma due to our the mainstream denial of the existence.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the worst things. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to even discuss on our roundtable, as well as, anytime, is sometimes people, there's so many different beliefs about this whole ET thing, that they think there's some groups who only want to believe that they're positive, and that if you have something that's negative, well, that means you're fear-based and you're spiritually retarded. There's something wrong with you. And they do this kind of shame and blame the victim kind of modality, which is actually part of a mind control program that's deliberate by the higher level beings who are deceiving those who are thinking they're positive. And this is something that Dr. Carla Turner and Barbara Bartholick, we knew off the top years ago when this stuff was happening, but people keep falling for it over and over and over again. So you have to be really careful about really releasing the need to believe
one way or the other.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to be neutral and release whatever your need is to believe anything so that you can get to the core truth of your being while you're being surrounded with a compassionate presence and a safety. So
Yeah.
that happens, and we could truly let go of the need for ego or to, make your business better or to be a better channeler or whatever it is. You really have to release on this humble level of equanimity. This is what they call it in Buddhism. It's basically releasing your desire and fear to attach any identity of being, oh, I'm a contactee. I'm special. I have all these upgrades. I'm an indigo. I'm a crystal. I'm a this. I'm a that. You just let go of it all.
Well, I'm trying to refrain from categorizing my friends, demonic sex attacks, right? Like all I know is it sounds like an incubus, right? And I don't know if there's overlaps with the other anomalous trauma that you talk about, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the subconscious attachments or the subconscious trauma. Like people, including her, think they've and they believe that they've made it through their trauma and they're no longer traumatized from certain events, but I think there's a subconscious thing going on underneath, which is hard for people to come out, to cleanse, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is hard because there's the trauma element, and then there's the element of, let's say, interdimensional entity thing, and there could be different causes, and you want to be able to release both at the same time. And in order to, it's like these entity things can be confusing. Sometimes they can come from different causes of origin. Sometimes it could be something in the family line that's not necessarily yours. It could be because, your father was a Mason or your mom was a witch or the house you live in, or it could be a past life thing where you brought it in so that there's no overt trauma that you can remember in this life, but it came in. So the only way to really know is to just do some self-exploration with somebody who's really sensitive on being able to detect what's present. And a lot of times memories are actually blocked from the entities themselves. And we know this from some of the ritual abuse programming that can take place with some of the darker, quote, MK Ultra ritual abuse, where they actually insert a demon or interdimensional being of some sort in addition to the trauma. And then that demon's job may be to maintain the programming, which is the script of that alter personality, which basically denies that something ever even happened. And they block the memory, they compartmentalize it. And the demon's job is to keep that block there. So what happens is a lot of times you won't remember nothing. And part of not being able to remember is the entity itself. The entity is providing a job of preventing that connection in your consciousness. And this is something that Dr. Corrado Malanga actually found out in his own unique way with the alien abduction phenomena, where he discovered that not only aliens were interfering on many, what he calls it a trans-dimensional level, where they would actually parasite the human consciousness on the mind or the spirit aspect. And so he found ways to basically remove that alien parasite so that the consciousness, the mind, spirit, and soul could be reintegrated into a coherent, integrated consciousness. And once that took place, then the memories could surface and the sense of self could surface. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's the healing, the start of the healing process, I guess.
Yeah, it's like an integration of consciousness is very important with any kind of trauma. And when there's interdimensional beings that may do this deliberately because of their own reasons, that means they know us sometimes better than we know ourselves. And so it could be pretty tricky sometimes unless we are ready to release, let's say, traumas and certain belief systems and release the programming and then know what is programming versus what is the true core of who you are. And sometimes that's difficult because all we ever knew maybe was the programming.
Yeah. So as far as your hypnotherapy practice and your consulting and that type of thing, can people? I see that they can call you and get help over the phone, but can you actually put somebody through a full session non-local, or do you have to be in the presence?
Well, it's probably better to do something in person.
Yeah.
But I've only done remote sessions because I didn't really have an office and I didn't want to do that yet because of my own reasons of safety, which I discovered, working with MILABs, right? And some people have been in these programs. Sometimes they have programming to kill you or to cause harm to you. So you have to be really careful sometimes,
Right.
So, but things can be done remotely on Skype or phone, especially, let's say,